Sí, mami, aquí está. ¿Qué estás haciendo? ¿Filmando? 70 pesos me quitó. Ahora les digo el nombre del caballero. 70 pesos. Miren acá.
¿Qué es eso? ¿Qué es eso?
No sé, una libreta de códigos.
La corrupción en todo su apogeo.
No me quiso dar el nombre, es del ángel. Baja la cámara que no se ve cómo.
Sí, me importa un comino si me vio. Si me vio desde hace rato.
Se hace llamar del ángel. Y eso es lo malo cuando uno anda con carro extranjero. No se lo paran a uno. Ahí está la moto estatal de Chetumal.
¿Por qué estamos acá?
Porque voy a retirar plata, mi amor.
Porque vamos.
Now, if you've been reading the headlines lately, then you know that Walmart is in the middle of a huge bribery scandal in Mexico. Now, the company allegedly paid government officials as much as $24.5 million to provide faster access to store building permits. But why does the U.S. actually care about what Walmart is doing in Mexico? That's a question that a lot of people have been asking these days, so we thought we'd take a good look at the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. It was passed in 1977, and it bans individuals and companies from bribing foreign government officials to win business or influence their decision-making. But a lot of business groups out there complain that this puts them at a disadvantage when it comes to competing with other companies abroad. Do you think that it's okay to hold businesses to these kinds of standards, to tell them you can't bribe officials in countries abroad when you're trying to do business, even if that's the way that everyone else does it?
I think it's incredibly important to do that. Look, we have to play by the rules. And when you let one type of corporate behavior that's illegal get away, then they start doing other things.
In Mexico, an elaborate tale of bribery by one of the world's largest corporations, Walmart. In April, the New York Times revealed how Walmart's leaders hushed up evidence of widespread bribery by their largest foreign subsidiary, Walmart de Mexico. Payoffs were authorized to buy an altered zoning map and a compliant mayor. Meanwhile, when Walmart's leaders in the United States were confronted with credible evidence of serial bribes, they did nothing to alert authorities.
The Times visited dozens of Mexican towns and cities. David Barstow, welcome to Democracy Now!
Someone who had been a lawyer for their operations in Mexico, the lawyer who had been in charge of getting all permits to build new Walmarts in Mexico, had been routinely resorting to bribery in order to basically speed up and to obtain permits, licenses, zoning approvals on a fairly massive scale all across the country, and with a very specific strategic purpose, which was to accelerate Walmart's growth in Mexico.
Yeah, and that's very much a live issue because we have law in the United States that makes it a crime for people to pay bribes abroad, even in situations where they're not illegal under local law. And you know, again, when I was in India, this is a real issue because that's, you know, bakshish is a long-standing tradition and a part of culture there, getting things done. And it's not as though we don't have that here. You know, you can, if you have to go to the DMV, for instance, in some states, and I've done this myself, you can pay a fee for expedited services. Well, it's exactly what you're doing in other sorts of places, except we passed a law that says it's legal and it's, you know, sort of regulated, and so it's regular. You know, the joke was always in Delhi that an honest politician is the one who takes your bribe and then does the thing you paid him to do. Yeah, you know, I think that I might argue that in some cases where it is essentially a cultural norm and a regular part of doing business, that yeah, it's probably acceptable. I think that in most cases the onus for corruption is on the party demanding or accepting the payment rather than the one making it. Although if you are making the payment rather than resisting it, you are contributing to that culture as well. But this is where you get into some moral calculation about the greater good of your enterprise there. I mean, I think you could make a case, and I'm a free trade guy who believes in letting people go where they want to, but that doing business in the People's Republic of China is always morally complicated, even if you're not paying bribes, even if you're not doing anything that we would normally think of as unethical, because you are, by your presence and your generation of value and your generation and your investment of capital, helping to support what is one of the most awful and oppressive and terrible governments in the world. Yeah, it's sort of a double-edged thing, because in one sense, I mean, you are helping to support an oppressive system. On the other hand, you are also measurably making people's lives better there than they were before, and by making them wealthier, contributing to political conditions that will eventually, we hope, one day help to reform that system. So it's a difficult set of trade-offs. In the real world, you have to take both of those things into view. We have moral principles and ethical principles that should be, to some extent anyway, transcendent and transferable from various locations to others and in various cultures to others. But if you don't take into account realities, well, the man who founded my magazine, William F. Buckley, said that idealism is fine, but as you approach reality, the costs become prohibitive.